For more on all of this, we are now speaking with Andrew Scheer. He's the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Good to be with you today. Thank you so much for your time. And I'd like to first get your reaction.
Well, it's pretty bleak news. We had been bracing ourselves for a $200 or a $250 billion deficit. To see the total come in at $343 billion, it's very alarming. We know that Canadians are going to have to pay that back eventually. And one of the things that I'm hearing from a lot of people is, what has that got us? The government's spending all this money, but we're still underperforming. We're losing out to other countries in the G7. Other G7 countries have a better situation when it comes to unemployment. They have a better situation when it comes to a credit rating. Canada's falling so far behind, and there's a lot of concern that there's a lack of a plan to guide Canada through the recovery.
With respect to the amount over what most people were expecting, again, that $200, maybe $250 billion range, and we're at $343 billion. Did you hold the government to task in terms of the plans that they were going to be putting in place and the amount of dollars associated with those plans? What were those conversations like?
Yeah, of course. And first of all, these conversations started before the pandemic hit. The Liberal government racked up $87 billion worth of new debt before the health crisis. That's what really left Canada in a weakened position. One of the reasons why other countries haven't seen their credit rating downgraded the way Canada has is because of all the debt and deficits that Justin Trudeau was accumulating. We've been pushing for a plan, starting with fixing the flaws in the government programs, fixing the wage subsidy, the rental subsidy. Many, many businesses have experienced catastrophic drops in revenue, but they're still not qualifying for that program. We also want to bring in what we're calling the back to work bonus as it relates to the CERB, to allow people to keep some of their CERB benefits while they return back to work, to incentivize people taking available work and helping local businesses, small businesses fill shifts. They're not doing that. So we're seeing a lot of money being spent, but we're not getting that return on investment in terms of the unemployment rate and some of the other factors that we're looking at.
What's the pushback to a back-to-work bonus? I would think that that's a great incentive, and that's been one of the problems that many people that we interview have cited, that there's an incentive to stay at home and not go back to work. So what's the pushback from the government on that? And also, what's the pushback in changing the wage subsidy program that would also help businesses not have to have a very low amount of sales in order to be compensated?
Yeah, this is what's really baffling, because, this is not a philosophical difference. It's not like, conservatives and liberals just have this major philosophical disagreement. On the back to work bonus, as you rightly point out, many business owners are describing problem. They are offering shifts to workers, but workers are concerned that if they work 1 hour, if they earn $1 more than $1,000, and those shifts aren't there for the rest of the month, they might take a couple today, a couple this week. They might lose out on the entire CERB. So many people are hesitant to take that chance. And so what we're saying is, let's remove the risk for workers and say, let's let people keep some of their CERB so that it always pays more to work. The government refuses to do that. On the wage subsidy, we've pointed out many different types of examples of people who are not eligible for the wage subsidy. We were told back in March and April that the government would fix these programs as time went on. They're not doing that. It's July 8th, and we've highlighted some of these problems for weeks now. Another good example of this is the rental subsidy. Businesses have to have lost 70% of their revenue in order to qualify for that. Well, you tell me what kind of small business in Canada can survive a 30, 40, 50, 60% drop in revenue and still operate. So there's a lot of people falling through the cracks, and they just refuse to fix their own programs. It's very frustrating.
But you still maintain that you have been holding them to task in terms of all these details and the implementation, the execution of these programs, but it is falling on deaf ears?
That's the unfortunate thing. Today, Bill Morneau was patting himself on the back, and the Liberals were engaged in a lot of self-congratulations. They talked about the need for speed to get programs designed and implemented. We agree, but that's more of a March thing. We're in July now, and we've had all the opposition parties uniting on some of these questions, uniting on the fact that we need to fix these gaps, uniting around the fact that we need to have remove the barriers for people to return to work while on CERB. It's unfortunate that the Liberals shut down Parliament during all of this, because some of the tools that we have at our disposal to force them to make these changes, we've lost because they've eliminated parliamentary sitting. So it's very frustrating, but we're in the Conservative Party, we're going to continue the fight because we still believe that these programs need to be fixed.
And despite the level of debt and budget deficit forecast, $343 billion, we're going to keep saying, we'll never forget that number. If there is a second wave, will you continue, though? Would you support further spending to help people really and businesses bridge this gap, which I think we should all perhaps recognize has been effective versus what we saw during the financial crisis south of the border, where there was no bridge and individuals and families and businesses were truly decimated and still are. They have not recovered.
Well, look, you're very right to say that number be remembered for a long time. It's a new record. It's an unprecedented amount. We hope that that's a record that will stand for a long time. We never want to see deficits bigger than that. One of my major concerns when you talk about a second wave and how the government's going to respond is where the money comes from. Not a lot of people are paying attention to the fact, I know your network has highlighted this, and we need to kind of remind Canadians that the money is coming from the Bank of Canada, literally just creating new money out of thin air. That is going to have long-term consequences, and eventually that leads to inflation. And eventually that money needs to be paid back. They're buying bonds off the secondary market. Right now it's having the effect of keeping yields low, so the cost of borrowing is low. But that only lasts for a certain amount of time. And when investors realize that their holdings are being devalued because of the creation of new money, those interest rates are going to skyrocket. And that means that all this debt that's been accumulated will be even more expensive. So what we're saying is we need a plan to kickstart the economy to help recover.
And what's your plan?
Same time,
do you have a plan
ensuring
forward?
That the health systems, So we need to make sure that every health system across the country has PPE, that they have measures in place, that they've addressed the issues in long-term care facilities, so that if there is a second wave, we don't have to take the extreme measures that we took the first wave. And we need to realize that Canada is going to be competing against every other country. So we need a low tax plan. We need a massive deregulation plan. We're seeing other countries do that. We're going to be fighting against other G7 countries. If we're just continuing down the path that the Liberals have charted for us, we're going to lose out. We're going to fall further behind.
We will leave it there. Great to be able to catch up with you and get your perspective. Thank you so much.